Hi everyone, I'm Christy Forsyth with Clarity by Christy. I am a soul therapist and an intuitive that connects with the angelic energy, and I help the helpers, the healers, and the light bringers of this world to live their most magical life. So if that's you and you're watching on my YouTube channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you can get with the bell so you can get notifications for all of the videos that I share here on this channel. So we're going to dive into this weekly energy. So this is all about what is the weekly energy, what can we expect from the weekly energy, and how can we make the most of it? So this is really like cheat codes for the week as to like what to expect and how to make the most of the weekly energy. Before I dive into that, I do want to highlight, you guys may have seen me mention this little event that we have coming up called Clarity Connects, which is not so little of an event at all. It is our big event that's coming up on September 24th. Some of you guys remember Nicole, who I used to work with, who I used to have this business with, and we are bringing that event back together. So she's going to come to town for that. We are, for those of you who are not local, we're in the upstate New York area, the Elmira, New York area. So we have people, all kinds of people travel out for this event. You're going to want to check that out. You can check that out and make sure I put the links below, but on my website at discoveryyourawakening.com. So let's talk about the energy, because I feel like there's this whole shift that's happening, right? We have officially transitioned out of Leo season. We are now in Virgo season. And to me, we shift a little bit from like that. To me, that Leo energy is that fun summer energy, that time when we're just having a good time and being very fun and playful. And we shift right into this Virgo energy. And I would say that Virgo energy, Virgo and Capricorn energy for me are very much like that get your shit together energy, right? Where it is forcing us or encouraging us, not forcing, I don't think that's the right word. It's assisting us in figuring out what it is that we need to do in order to get ourselves together, in order to set us up in a great way. You know, we tend to, around this time of year, get more into a routine, start to settle down a little bit, start to like check off some of those things off of our to-do list that we've been putting off all summer, that kind of stuff. And that to me is very much this Virgo energy. And I think if we can make the most of it and figure out, you know, what are the goals I want to focus on? What are the things that I'm feeling called to work on? You know, what do I need to do in order for my life to feel a little bit more structured, a little bit more together, a little bit more taken care of? What am I feeling called to do? So I really encourage you this week, but throughout this entire Virgo season, especially, to let yourself sort of explore that. But one thing that I'm noticing for myself, for other people, is this big theme that's coming up right now. It's like Virgo season shifted, and it's like even just today, there's this whole theme of us starting to do an ego assessment. At least if you're intuitively listening, you have maybe already started this, or you will be starting this. So when I say an ego assessment, what I mean is we're taking a look at where our ego is leading our lives. Now, we as human beings are both an ego and a soul. And I'm going to go through and just talk about a little bit of those differences, because those two things feel very differently. And we're here to have a human experience. So I don't think that the goal is ever to completely release the ego, but I do think that we want to, as best we can, try to operate most of the time from a soul place rather than an ego place. So when I describe the ego, to me, I think about the ego being sort of like a spoiled child. When we're really young, we are so much more ego based, right? So much more self-focused, and that, you know, so it's like that child who is throwing a temper tantrum within ourselves sometimes. And so when we come from a place of ego, it can be very self-focused. It can be, we can be making choices that maybe feel good in the moment, but aren't necessarily good for the long term for our lives, you know. So when we're making a soul-based decision, it's something that maybe may require us to actually not feel good in the moment, or work a little bit harder, or do something that feels really hard in the moment, but we know is best for us in the long term. The ego can be very reactive. The ego is where control is based, right? So if you're finding yourself feeling like you need to control this, that, and everything, that is coming from the ego. And we really want to work on trying our best to work more toward this state of detachment, which would be more soul-based, right? Of trusting in the universe, trusting in God to guide our path, and working with God to set our manifestations, to set our intentions, but at the same time letting ourselves sort of be more in flow rather than trying to control every little thing, because really control is just an illusion anyway, right? We can kind of create this illusion of control, but at the end of the day, we don't really have that much control over things. And so it is helpful to lean into the flow, to lean into our faith. That is going to be more soul-based. Compulsive behavior, you might find, is being stirred up right now, because there's this real stirring up of us wanting to be in our ego. You might find yourself feeling a bit more reactive if you are leaning more into the ego. I always feel like when we're finding ourselves very easily triggered, that's ego, right? Or even when certain circumstances happen and somebody maybe has wronged you. I think sometimes when we're coming from an ego-based place, we have this tendency to attach labels to them, or to make ourselves the victims of that, rather than taking that step back. And if we were taking a step back from a soul perspective, we might take a look at, okay, maybe that person made some bad choices and did me wrong, and maybe that is going to lead to certain consequences that have to happen there. But at the same time, what is my role in this, or what do I need to take a look at? If we're operating a lot from the ego, it's like, that person is a narcissist, that person is a narcissist, that person is this, and we're like labeling people in that way. And speaking of that, I feel like we use that word narcissist a little too often, to kind of write people off, or to disconnect ourselves from this need to take responsibility for our part in things. And I'm certainly not saying that, if you're truly the victim of something, that you are responsible for that. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I am saying that it's important as often as possible for us to take a look at our role in particular things, and to not very quickly just write it off as somebody else's responsibility, because that is really coming from that ego-based place. So anything that is going to really fuel a victim mentality, I think there's a lot of opportunities here for us to make ourselves the victims if we allow that. I've caught myself a few times, just even today, allowing my thoughts to go into a place where I'm moving into a place of, why would they do that, and why would they do, and what I'm not recognizing, and what I had to recognize, is that in order for me to be empowered, in order for me to take my power back, I can't keep making myself a victim, right? So it becomes, okay, so what do I need to do about this situation? What changes do I need to make in order to not continue to allow it? And the more that I just keep creating that narrative of being the victim, I am handing my power away again and again and again. So this is very much a week and an opportunity for us to take our power back, and to recognize where we have power to make changes in our lives. We have power to set boundaries. We have power to do things from a different place, from a place of love. And I think that from a soul-based perspective, we really want to be taking a look at, like, is what I'm doing right now purposeful? Is what I'm allowing in my life most of the time leading to a more purposeful life, or am I doing a lot of wasting of my time and energy? Am I putting my time and energy into things that just don't really matter? And that's fine here and there, right? We all need those times to kind of unplug and disconnect from the seriousness of life. But I also think that it's important for us to take a look at, how can I be living a life that is more purposeful, or how can I be more connected to doing things and living my life in a more purposeful way? And I think that ultimately, for the long term, feels so much more fulfilling. Whereas, like, from an ego-based place, we're like constantly needing to like fill that space, right? I always say like the ego is an energy that will never be fed. It will never be happy. And if you can keep feeding it, and all that is going to do is empower the ego, but never you. It doesn't empower you. So really thinking about, where am I feeding my ego and where am I feeding my soul? That word purpose is so important this week. So asking yourself, does this feel purposeful? Does this feel truly deep down to the depths of my soul really good for me to do? Where do I need to change my routine in such a way that is going to make it feel more purposeful versus me spending hours upon hours upon hours on social media looking at things that, just either feed my ego or make me feel bad about myself. What can I do instead to replace it with something that is more empowering? So that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, that I think that we're going to be assessing this week. And I encourage you all to assess that, and maybe even for a couple of days, taking a step back with every choice that you're making, every action that you're taking, and asking yourself, am I making this choice from a place of ego, or am I making this choice from a place of soul? That'll help you to get a better sense of, what that looks like and where you need to be making changes. I feel like from that place, we can begin to create a little bit with this Virgo energy of a structure for our lives that is going to be more purposeful. This is a great time to like shake up your routine and to create, you guys can maybe tell that I really like a good routine, right? But to create a routine that is going to serve you, is going to help you, is going to feed your soul versus your ego. So this is a great time to also break habits that aren't helpful to you, but you keep doing them anyway, right? So this is a great time to do that. It's gonna take, I think, a lot of mental energy to really be aware of that, but I think that we're going to be very supported in leaning into our souls versus leaning into our egos. So let's take a look at the cards that we have. So I pulled from my Find Your Magic Oracle deck, which is my deck that I designed. You can find that in the links below. We have the Aura card, right? And the Aura card says, check your vibration. What does your vibrational diet look like? Good vibes are needed, right? So this is really talking about that ego stuff. What are you feeding? What energy are you feeding? And where do you need to make some tweaks? Where are you being even a little bit too, I don't know, I find myself like not putting enough time and energy into the things that really are important to me, and feeding the wrong things. So what is it that you want to be feeding in your life, and where do you need to make some changes? Who are you allowing in your energy field, and how is that impacting you? Who are you allowing to live rent-free in your head? That kind of stuff is really important for us to take a look at and start to create changes. And this Virgo energy is really going to support that. We have the Purpose card. Of course, I said purpose was going to be really important, right? Trust that, number one, this is all happening for a reason, but I also think that this is showing up because we are doing an assessment. How do I live a more purposeful life? How do I live a life that feels more purposeful, that feels more aligned for me on my best life path? We're only here for a short time, and we've got stuff to do. We don't have that time to waste. And yes, we need that balance of like rest and rejuvenation also, of course, but I think that this is an important time to lean into that purpose. Clarity. I think we're going to have a lot of clarity this week on the ways that we are allowing ego to drive our actions, our thoughts, our ways of being. We have the Queen of Scrolls, which is the Queen of Swords. So the Queen of Swords is very aware of what she needs to cut out of her life, and she does it. And she does it without being emotional. She does it without needing to apologize to anyone. She just does it. She and this doesn't mean that we have to completely cut people out, because that can be ego-based too, right? That can be, oh, well, forget them. They just disappoint me. I'm going to cut this person out. This is about cutting people out, but doing or cutting things out of our life that don't belong, but also making sure that we're doing that in a way that sits right with our soul, that sits right with who we came here to be. And the answer for everyone is we came here to be love. So that's really important that we do that from a place of love, but we also make decisions that come from a place of love for ourselves as well. So it's like finding that balance between what's best for me, what's best for the collective, and how do I make changes and choices that honor everyone involved. So the next card that we have here is the Three of Scrolls, the Setting Your Course card, and this is showing up in reverse. I feel it's kind of like slowing down a little bit and taking a look at what is the path that I'm on, what is the direction, what am I manifesting in my life, what am I creating, and where do I need to make some tweaks to that. Maybe that's changed, maybe I've changed, maybe I'm in a different place, but also, you know, what manifestations am I creating for myself? What am I trying to manifest in my life that's coming from a place of ego? And are there some things that we can say, this is what I want, but I also choose to hand this up and trust in the divine, in God, in the universe to bring into my life what is for me on my absolute best and highest path. And that can be a really great manifestation to put out there. I now call into my experience what is for my highest and best good. The next two cards that we have the Initiation and the Count Saint Germain here in reverse, and the Ark of the Covenant. These two are both about, you know, where have I allowed myself to get off track with where I want my life to go? Where have I allowed myself to be somebody who I'm not? Where have I allowed myself to be influenced in a way that doesn't sit right with me? Where have I allowed other people to treat me in a way that throws my whole energy off and doesn't allow me to live my most purposeful life? So again, there's this whole assessment, and where do I need to set myself free? Where do I need to what do I need to disconnect from so that my soul can be leading the choices that I'm making? And then we have the Waterfall card, right? So part of this process, or a huge part of this process, is in helping to reconnect us with our power. You are incredibly powerful. We are incredibly powerful. And the more that we lean into that soul energy, into our soul versus our ego, the more we tap into that power, the more we understand that not only are we created of God, but we also have God within us, right? And we are here to be a powerful co-creator in this world. And I really think that there's going to be a lot of evidence this week of that if we can step away from some of these cycles and these habits and these patterns and the ways that we have been keeping ourselves stuck, or have been self-sabotaging or holding ourselves back from becoming the best version of ourselves, and we're stepping into our power now. Last card, we have the Eight of Keys, which is the Eight of Pentacles, the Master Artisan, right? This is us coming back to our purpose and working at it, really working at it. What are you good at? What lights you up? What makes you happy? And I think that for those people who are focused on doing that in a way that makes them money, you know, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for money, resources, opportunities to come in. But even if it's not that for you, you know, if the things that you are passionate about, the things that feel purposeful, that you are working on, are going to lead to reward in some way, whether that's money, whether that's opportunities, whether that's, you know, freedom, whether that's just feeling good about what you're doing, feeling more aligned with yourself than you felt in a long time. And I think that that's a huge part of the message, is there are opportunities for us to feel more aligned with who we are and what we're doing and the path that we're choosing than we felt in quite some time. So it's been quite a build up to this point, and I think it's a really powerful energy if we allow it. But you've got to be in a place where you're willing to call yourself out, where you're willing to challenge yourself, where you're willing to take a look at things that maybe are hard to take a look at, that maybe are hard for you to be honest with yourself about, or honest with other people about. But it's time. It's time for us to step into our power and for us to let ourselves be led by our souls. So those are your messages for this week. If these messages resonate with you, I always appreciate a like, a comment below, share this video, tag somebody below, whatever you guys feel called to do. I always appreciate it. It's a really nice way to offer an energy exchange, and it also helps for these videos to be seen by more people. So thank you guys so much for being here today. I appreciate you all so much. If you didn't buy your Clarity Connect tickets yet and you would like to come, that is our motivational speaking event. It is amazing and I'm really proud of it. There are some videos about that on my YouTube as well that describe that all in detail. Happy to answer any questions that you have about that too. Thank you guys so much. I will see you soon with another video. Take care.